Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man walahu wa ba'd. Welcome back to another session of Ask Joe Bradford, and this will be a weekly Q&A that I'll do. I'll post something on my Facebook page, my Twitter account, and then record the video, upload it, and answer all of the questions that you submitted up until that evening. And this should be, inshallah ta'ala, every Thursday. We'll archive all of the videos on YouTube in a playlist so that you can always go back and see them. And so I hope that this can become a valuable resource for many of you. I have not recorded your names in these questions, but I'm just going to ask the substance of the questions and give you a short answer. And that is because, number one, several of you have asked similar questions. And number two, some people may not want their name on a video. So question number one, is leasing cars allowed even though there is interest in the contract? Well, first of all, you have to understand that interest is an accounting term, and riba is a shari'i, an Islamic legal term, and they are two different terms. Not all interest is riba, but all riba is interest. What does that mean? Interest as an accounting term can be used for any increase on capital, and that may be the capital that is used to purchase an asset or a service, or the capital that is used to or for a loan. So when you read money factor, when you read interest, when you read profit rate, when you read whatever you read in a lease contract, you are leasing a car, you are taking use of an asset, and you are given the ability to use its usufruct freely, and there are certain liabilities that you hold, certain liabilities that you do not hold, and you're simply paying an increase on the value of that car for its use, not as a loan for its use. So this is a service contract, it's not a loan, and therefore interest, when it's mentioned in a car lease, is not something which is forbidden. It is not forbidden riba. Many of you have asked about forex, and actually I have mentioned to you before that I was writing an article on forex, and to sum up the answer about forex, and I will go into much more detail later in an article, forex trading is not permissible, and it is not permissible for several reasons. Number one, in forex trading, you are generally trading on a margin. And when you are trading on margin, that means you will put down $10,000 and you will be given control over $100,000, meaning that you are taking a loan of $90,000 to trade in. Number two, if you hold that lot, $100,000 lot as it's called, if you hold that lot overnight, you will be charged a interest rate for the use of that money overnight, which is impermissible. Some companies will say, we'll give you an Islamic account, and instead of charging you an interest rate, we'll charge you a flat fee, or we'll increase the number of pips that will charge you on each individual transaction. That is simply artifice. It is simply a hila or a ruse to charge you more, and is impermissible as well. And lastly, the nature of the forex market is that you are paying to use a service and borrowing money at the same time. And the Prophet ﷺ naha anil bay'i an bay'in wa qard. The Prophet ﷺ forbade us from a loan and a sale in one transaction. So if I come and I say to you, I'll sell this to you with the condition that you loan me money, or the condition that I loan you money, then it becomes extremely problematic. You can look for more details in the Forex article that I'll put out. And the reason why I'm putting this out is because, quite frankly, I found people giving fatwa on this subject who haven't the foggiest about what actually goes on in the Forex industry. Now, if you do have $100,000 and you can make it to a Forex exchange without going through a market maker, then you can trade Forex. But unless you have that amount of money, any of these other services is not going to be permissible for you. Someone asked about binary trading. Binary trading is not permissible. It is a form of gambling. Another person asked about penny stocks. Penny stocks is permissible, however, from its fundamental ruling is it's like any other share. You're buying a share in a company. But there's a lot of fraud, there's a lot of pump and dump, there's a lot of risk and volatility in penny stocks. And if you are manipulating markets in order to make the stock go up, then that is something called najash, and it is forbidden in the Sharia, and it should be avoided. So If you are legitimately investing in a small cap business, great. But if you're involved in pump and dumps and schemes and stuff like that, then you should avoid it. Someone asked about beginners' books on investing. Well, I think the Investment Answer is a great book. Also, the best investment, or the only investment guide you'll ever need, is a good overall book to read. And quite frankly, the Investing for Dummies book is a great book. If you have no idea what you're talking about or what you're reading about, those are 3 books that are good to start with. And if any of you find those books, just drop the link in the comments. Someone says, if I'm investing in something with halal income, a stock or a share with halal income, but there's a percentage of haram income in it, is that permissible? And the answer is yes, as long as that haram income does not exceed 5% of the total of the company. So you'll look at secondary, when you look at the balance sheet, you'll look at interest income, you'll look at interest expense, you'll look at other income, and you'll find out if they are engaged in things which are impermissible. And if that makes up 5% or more of those things to total total assets or to total revenue, then you will need to avoid that stock. And I actually talked a little bit more about that in Simple Zakat Guide that you can check out there. Someone asks, may I give charity despite being in debt? No, you should not give charity if you are in debt. If you are in debt, you should pay your debts first and then give charity. The only time you can do this is so there's 2 situations here. Number 1, I have a debt which is due, and instead of paying that person back, I choose to not pay them and to give charity. This is wrong and sinful for holding back that person's right to that capital, that money, when it's theirs. Number 2, I have a scheduled debt, a monthly, a bi-weekly, a yearly debt that I pay on a scheduled fashion, and I want to give charity. In that case, it's absolutely fine for you to give charity in that case, because that debt payment has not become due, and therefore you can still give charity. Another person asks, I'm flipping real estate. Do I pay zakat on the sales price, less expenses, the full sales price, or on the profit? Well, if you're flipping real estate, one of 2 things are going to happen. Number 1, your zakat year, your haul, is going to come at a time when you have sold the property or you haven't. So if you've sold the property, you've already got the profit, and so you're going to add that profit to your assets, deduct your liabilities and expenses, and then zakat is due on whatever's left over, just like you do with all of your other wealth. If you haven't sold that property, then that property has either been with you for 366 days or it hasn't. If it has been with you for 366 days, then yes, you will pay zakat on the market price of that house. If it has not, then you will not pay anything. And this is important to note, that when calculating your zakat, if you're a small business person, you really need to decide whether cash versus accrual is the best way for you to do accounting for your zakat years. Because you may have several assets, several streams of income, that if you were to do the accrual method, then you would essentially pay more. If you did the cash method, then you would not. So you have to decide when your zakat year, if you can have an individual zakat year for every major stream of income or every asset, or you're going to have one zakat year for everything, and you'll be prepaying and postpaying on those assets and streams. Also, okay, next question. Is it obligatory to have a will, and is one sinful if they do not have it? It is obligatory to have a will. The Prophet ﷺ said that none of you should sleep for 2 nights except that his wasiyah is written and under his pillow or under his head. Therefore, it is highly recommended, if not an obligation, to have a will. And it is very easy to get a will. You can get a will in 2 ways. Number 1, you can take out a pen and paper and write down your will in your own handwriting, the entire thing, sign it, and then attach to that some examples of your signature from checks or whatever. And then that, in many states, is acceptable. They call it a holographic will, and it's acceptable in a probate court. Or you can go to www.mywasiyah, that's mywasiyah.com, fill out the online interview, print out your will. It's legally valid in all 50 states, Islamically valid, and you have a will that you assign in the presence of two witnesses, and now you've got that obligation taken care of. And it's not expensive, and it's a service that I helped create to help fill this gap for the Muslim community. Next question. Our tradition needs to be reviewed. I don't find ulama discussing consciousness or quantum physics. Are there areas of our tradition that need to be reviewed? I would say that the areas of Islamic thought that need to be reviewed are those that are based on empirical findings. And so if we find scholars of the past claiming things that have been disproven or could be disproven because of empirical claims, and yes, they should be reviewed. But quite frankly, why does a scholar need to talk about quantum physics or consciousness? Because in general, Islamic thought and law and theology is really only effective for that which brings a person closer to Allah, takes them far away from sin and from the hellfire. So it's generally informed by a moral question, an ethical question, and not questions of science and empiricism. So to me, it seems like a disconnect. I don't think that scholars need to talk about everything, and they probably shouldn't. They in fact they should not. And it's one of the conditions of a scholar that he doesn't talk about anything without knowledge, and therefore people should avoid talking about everything. Well, and many verses of the Quran that talk about this. Next question: full insurance. Can I get full insurance coverage if I have a car? And my answer is yes, you can, and that is because insurance is prohibited because of gharar, because of uncertainty, and uncertainty in a contract can become permissible if there is an outstanding need or necessity for it. And because of that, there's no difference between you getting the minimum liability and the full coverage on your car. Especially when the payments are going to be not very much different. But what I would suggest in the absence of any optimal solution for insurance companies, then you should be looking at an insurance company that, number one, is a mutual insurance company, not a for-profit or a conventional insurance company. So it's a mutual insurance company where one policyholder is one shareholder. And then it has a clear corporate social responsibility charter that makes sure that they invest in ethical holdings when they take your premiums and invest them. Next question: I have a long-term hold on real estate. Do I pay zakat on the sales price or on the profit? You will pay zakat on the sales price at the time of sale. Once at the time of sale for a long-term hold. Number 13, when are your Zakat seminars this year coming out? Well, I'm working with Penny Appeal USA, and we're setting up the times for them. And we're actually going to do several short Zakat seminars for the first few weeks of Ramadan and have Q&As with them. So you'll find some information in the next week will come out. Expect the schedule soon. Next is conventional mortgage. Does it depend on the contract terms? Well, like any contract, it depends on the contract terms. However, with all mortgages, conventional or Islamic, they are highly regulated, and there are certain things which are stipulated by regulation, and therefore this is why there's so much discussion about if conventional versus Islamic mortgages are permissible, because even the Islamic mortgages have to use Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac documentation, unless, of course, they're not taking funding from them and they're not on the secondary market. And in that case, they probably don't have the funding to be loaning for homes in the first place. Someone asked, is interest on a 0% car financing Riba al-qard? Well, if your car financing is from the person selling you the car or their subsidiary, then 0% financing is fine. There's absolutely no problem for it. And the increase is simply profit that they're charging you for bir taqsit, for a deferred set of payments on that asset that they own that they're selling you. So it's a binary contract. If you're bringing in a third party like a credit union, a bank or something like that, not an in-house financing, but a third party, then that is problematic and it should be avoided. Someone asked me, what is your position on X person or Y person or Z person? Well, I was once sitting in the class of Sheikh Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymeen, and someone said to him, Sheikh, what do you say about person X? And he said, do not mention to me the names of people. I'm not here, and Allah has not placed me as a judge amongst mankind to tell who's going to hell and who's going to heaven, who's right and who's wrong. Ask me about the principles, ask me about the issues, because I wish to be a teacher that educates you and not a judge between mankind. And I take the same approach. So I don't accept questions about who this person is, what's my position on them. I find that to be a waste of time. And people waste their time with issues about what's your position on this person or that person. They are highway robbers on the way to knowledge. They're not focusing on knowledge, they're focusing on people. Real scholars, real students of knowledge, real people searching for Allah will guide you to Allah. Everyone else will guide you to a man or against a man. Next question. If I take a car through a bank, referred to my question earlier about third parties brought into financing. Are there any exceptions to insurance, such as if a person doesn't need health or car insurance, but they may need liability insurance for their job or for the leases on the properties that they own? Liability insurance for disability insurance is permissible if there is a genuine need. There should be a genuine need for it for the support of your livelihood. It shouldn't just be an unnecessary policy that you're getting because you're being upsold by an insurance broker and agent. Another brother asks, is it permissible for me to take a VA loan? And yes, it is permissible for you to take a VA loan, because essentially what a VA loan is, it is the government rewarding you for your military and or government service, guaranteeing your payments if you fail to make a payment. So in reality, it's not a loan, it's a guarantee from the government that you will pay, and if not, they'll pay, and there's no charge for that. And so, therefore, VA loans are fine. You have no problems. And I'll probably do a write-up about that later, because this is the first person that's asked me a long time about this, but it really needs to be put out there. The mechanics of a VA loan are different than a conventional mortgage. I just want to make that clear, so no one come in and say anything. You know, we have to understand that each of these transactions, each of these methods of financing are different, and they have different liabilities, different responsibilities, different contexts, and different laws that govern them. And lastly, someone said where to learn about Islamic finance. Well, INCEIF of Malaysia is a great place. They have online courses, and you can take those courses. You can get a master's degree in Islamic finance from them. I think it's a great online method that's accessible from anywhere, and it's sponsored by Bank Negara, which is the Central Bank of Malaysia, and David Vickery, who is a friend and is the head of the president of the university there, is a great individual, and he's really doing a lot of great work to make the university a success. And then with reading material, I think the best material out there is Wiley Finance's series, and probably the best book to start with is Muhammad Ayyub's Introduction to Islamic Finance. So that is these are the questions and answers for this Thursday, inshallah ta'ala. See you next Thursday, bi'idhnillah. And look out for my posts and where you can post your questions. I'll be happy to answer them. I hope you found this beneficial. If I said anything correct, it's from Allah. And if I said anything incorrect, it's from me and from Shaitan. وسبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وأشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. And assalamu alaikum. See you next time on Ask Joe Bradford.